Right now, you're feeling it. Every time you swipe your card, every time you open a bill, every time you look at your grocery receipt, your stomach tightens just a little more. Rent is up, gas isn't giving you a break, food prices still feel heavier than your paycheck, and maybe you're sitting there wondering, how much longer can my family stretch this budget before something has to give? This isn't just numbers on a screen. This is your life. This is your kid's future. This is whether you can breathe a little easier at the end of the month or keep living paycheck to paycheck. Millions of Americans are quietly carrying the same pressure you are. Parents skipping extras for their kids, seniors choosing between medication and groceries, young workers working overtime just to stay afloat. And that's why today's update matters so much. Because a new video statement from the president has reignited national conversation around potential stimulus support. And the words used were not what many people expected. This isn't hype for hype's sake. This is about signals, tone shifts, and what those signals could mean for your wallet if policy momentum continues in this direction. People across social media, financial news, and policy circles are dissecting every sentence, every pause, every emphasis. Why? Because when leadership starts changing language, it often means something is moving behind the scenes. So, stay with me. In this video, we're breaking down exactly what was said, what it could mean, what the real risks and realities are, and why this moment has so many Americans leaning forward in their chairs. There's a wait for it twist coming that you don't want to miss, especially if you care about protecting your household financially. Let's get into it. Americans still can't catch up. Here's the hard truth nobody can ignore anymore. Even though inflation has slowed compared to its peak, the damage is already baked into your monthly budget. Prices didn't come back down to where they were. They stayed up. Wages didn't magically double. Savings were drained during previous years of economic stress. Credit card balances climbed. Emergency funds shrank. That means families are still recovering, not thriving. You may feel like you're running just to stand still. Every raise feels like it disappears into higher rent. Insurance increases, utility spikes, and medical costs. If you're retired or on a fixed income, that pressure feels even tighter. If you're raising kids, every school expense adds another layer of stress. And if you're young and trying to build stability, the ladder feels steeper than ever. This creates a dangerous cycle. When households pull back spending, local businesses slow down. When businesses slow down, jobs become less stable. When jobs feel shaky, families save instead of invest. That ripple effect touches every community. That's why government conversations about economic relief never truly disappear. They pause, evolve, and resurface when pressure becomes impossible to ignore. And that's exactly what makes the president's recent remarks so interesting. The language wasn't framed as emergency panic. It wasn't framed as denial either. It was framed around stability, resilience, and making sure working families don't fall behind again. Those words matter. They shape how policymakers signal future action without making promises too early. So the main problem remains clear. Americans are still financially stretched. The system hasn't fully reset. Household confidence remains fragile. And leadership knows that if consumer confidence weakens too much, the broader economy feels it next. That's the pressure building behind the story. And it's why today's update is getting attention. Why this affects your daily decisions. Let's talk about what this pressure actually does to your everyday choices. When money feels tight, you delay repairs on your car. You postpone doctor visits. You cut back on healthy food. You skip family trips that build memories. You hesitate before investing in education or training that could raise your income long term. That's not just inconvenience. That's life direction changing because of financial strain. This stress also hits mental health. Constant money worry drains energy, focus, and confidence. You may find yourself snapping more easily, sleeping less, and feeling overwhelmed by decisions that shouldn't feel so heavy. Multiply that across millions of households, and you get a nation running on quiet anxiety. That's why even the possibility of relief, not just guaranteed relief, can shift sentiment quickly. Markets react, consumers react, businesses adjust expectations. The idea that leadership is paying attention sends a psychological signal. You're not invisible, your struggle is recognized, and solutions are at least being discussed. But here's the reality check. Not every discussion becomes policy. Not every proposal becomes law. Not every hopeful headline becomes a deposit in your bank account. That's why smart viewers don't just react emotionally. They analyze patterns, timelines, and political momentum. And this is where today's video clip matters. Because tone changes often come before action. Not always, but often. The way leaders talk publicly shapes what lawmakers feel comfortable proposing next. So while nothing is official yet, the impact of these words is already rippling through financial communities, policy analysts, and everyday Americans looking for signs of stability. And now, here comes the part everyone's waiting for, the surprising language shift. In the recent video appearance, the president used phrasing that caught attention across political and financial circles. Instead of focusing only on long-term growth, there was direct emphasis on short-term household stability, consumer resilience, and protecting purchasing power. That's a noticeable shift. When leaders talk about protecting purchasing power, That often signals concern that everyday Americans are struggling to keep up with costs, even if broader economic numbers look stable on paper. When they reference short-term relief mechanisms, that suggests flexibility, not rigid policy thinking. And when they emphasize keeping families secure during economic transitions, that implies preparation for potential economic slowdowns or adjustments. This doesn't automatically mean a stimulus is approved or coming tomorrow, but it does mean the conversation has reopened in a more serious tone than before. Analysts noticed it. Journalists noticed it. Social media noticed it. Because language like this doesn't appear randomly. It's usually tested internally before being said publicly. This is the wait for it moment. The seed is planted. The conversation is active again. And when enough pressure builds from voters, lawmakers, and economic signals, proposals tend to follow. That's why you're seeing renewed speculation about potential support numbers circulating online, including figures around the $2,000 range. Those numbers are not confirmed. They are speculative benchmarks based on past relief models and political feasibility discussions. The real takeaway is momentum, not math, and momentum is powerful. What a potential stimulus could mean for you. If a future relief package were ever introduced, the goal wouldn't just be sending money, it would be stabilizing confidence and preventing deeper economic slowdown. For your household, that could mean breathing room, catching up on bills, paying down high-interest debt, rebuilding emergency savings, covering necessary expenses without fear. For local communities, that spending keeps small businesses alive. For workers, it stabilizes job demand. For seniors, it eases fixed income pressure. For families, it restores some sense of control. But here's the responsible reminder. Until legislation is drafted, debated, and passed, nothing is guaranteed. That's why staying informed matters more than reacting emotionally to headlines. The opportunity isn't just about receiving money. It's about preparing wisely so that if any support arrives, you maximize its impact instead of letting it disappear into unplanned spending. Smart households plan. They prioritize debt reduction, savings, and stability. And this channel exists to help you think strategically, not impulsively. Because your financial future deserves clarity, not chaos. How politics and economics collide behind the scenes. Policy doesn't move in isolation. Elections, public sentiment, inflation trends, employment numbers, and market stability all influence timing. When leadership senses that voter pressure and economic data are aligning, action becomes more likely. That's why messaging matters. It prepares the public psychologically. It softens resistance. It builds narrative framing. It allows policymakers to introduce proposals without shocking markets or voters. This moment feels like early positioning rather than final execution. And that's actually a healthy sign. It means conversations are happening early enough to design smarter solutions rather than rushed emergency responses. For you, that means watching the signals, not just the headlines. Mini recap and what to watch next. Let's pause and recap quickly. Americans are still financially stretched. Household pressure remains real. The president's language has shifted towards short-term stability and consumer protection. That has reopened serious discussion about potential economic support. Nothing is confirmed yet. Momentum is building, not conclusions. What should you watch next? Congressional proposals, budget discussions, economic indicators, public approval messaging, and credible reporting, not viral misinformation. Staying grounded protects your wallet. Risks, reality, and responsible expectations. It's important to acknowledge risks. Political gridlock can slow progress. Budget constraints can limit scope. Economic improvements could delay action. That's why you should never plan your finances based on unapproved policy. Hope is powerful, but discipline is smarter. Use this time to strengthen your budget, reduce unnecessary expenses, and build resilience regardless of what happens next. Why this story isn't going away. This story continues because the underlying problem isn't solved yet. Household pressure remains. Public demand remains. Leadership awareness remains. That combination keeps this conversation alive. That's why you'll keep seeing updates, statements, and speculation. And why staying informed protects you from emotional misinformation. How you can stay financially ready. Focus on controllables, budget clarity, emergency savings, debt management, income opportunities, financial education. These actions protect you regardless of policy outcomes. Preparation turns uncertainty into confidence. Media, hype versus real signals. Not every headline equals reality. Learn to differentiate hype from policy movement. Look for legislative steps, not just quotes. Smart viewers win long-term. Long-term economic shifts you should understand. Automation, global supply chains, housing shortages, healthcare costs. These trends shape future policy decisions. Relief discussions often connect to these structural pressures. Understanding them gives you an advantage. Why following updates matters for your wallet. Timely information allows better decisions. Missing updates can cost opportunities. Staying informed protects your financial trajectory. Your future depends on awareness. Why this moment matters. Hope doesn't mean blind optimism. It means informed readiness. It means believing that voices matter and policy evolves when people stay engaged. Your attention shapes outcomes. Right now, you're standing at the intersection of uncertainty and opportunity. Your wallet feels the pressure. Your family feels the impact. Your future depends on smart decisions, not rumors or panic. The conversation around potential economic relief is shifting again, slowly, carefully, strategically. That matters. But what matters even more is that you stay informed, stay grounded, and stay prepared. Because when real updates arrive, the people who understand the signals move first and move smarter. If you want clear updates, responsible breakdowns, and real-world financial insight that protects your household, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay connected to this channel. Your financial future deserves attention, clarity, and confidence. Stay ready, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next update.